All right, well, welcome back, everyone. And it is 10:02, so let's go ahead and get started. We have the auditor's office. Steve, are you here?
I
Yep.
am here, and let me get the video going here. Good morning, Commissioner Trask. Good morning, Commissioner Schutte. Good morning, Commissioner Netherland. Thanks for having me on the agenda for today. I wanted to cover with you guys the highlights of a grant that's been approved from the Secretary of State's office for information security. And I did provide a presentation. I don't know if you guys have it or want to pull it up. But essentially, we have been approved for an $80,000 per year grant for 3 years by the Secretary of State's office for information security. And so we've got some good ways to put that money to work. I want to point out that the expenses, according to the way the grant set up, the expenses are to be reimbursed. So we'll have to obviously modify the budget to amend it to show an 80,000 revenue increase and offset with $80,000 per year in expenses. For the first year, if we go to the second or the next slide, for the first year, the funds must be spent by June 30th. And in that statement of work, we've got identified construction of the tabulation room for the clear ballot system, and also security locks for the new tabulation room. This is all to provide better physical security for elections voting system machines. We also plan to add a couple of additional video surveillance cameras. And along with that, we will have a new badge printer for visitors and observers to better control who's in that environment. And along with that, we're also working with Hood Cadell Communications now for implementation of video surveillance cameras at our Dropbox locations throughout the county. We've given or received a proposal for them or from them for installation of video cameras at 7 out of the 10 drop boxes. There's a few that don't have the Wi-Fi capability to support what we're looking for at this point in time. We'll keep exploring other options there. And then we're also working with an outside third-party supplier to do some wireless intrusion testing on our voting system machines. And in conjunction with that, we're working with a couple other counties and the Secretary of State's office to really define what that testing is going to entail. And last but certainly not least, we're going to purchase some Faraday cages to provide protection of our election system equipment from radio wave and electromagnetic frequency sources that may interfere with the equipment. And with that, some Faraday fabric that we can use to cover some of the equipment and machinery. And it was even suggested that we could make Faraday fabric suits for some of the election staff, but we're really still looking into that aspect of it. That part was a joke. The other thing I want the Board of Commissioners to have a heads up, eyes wide open understanding of is that the grant requires that we have an active Albert sensor on the county network. And we do have one as of August of last year. And I know that in some circles of elections enthusiasts that the Albert sensor is a hot topic of discussion. And I know that we're going to dive into that a little bit deeper in the next IT steering team meeting as a topic. But for your awareness, again, that's the one requirement that the Secretary of State put out there for Albert or for awarding this grant. I did ask them what would happen if for whatever reason down the road the Board of Commissioners decided to remove the sensor, and they didn't really have much to say about it other than depending on the timing, they thought it might be bad form. So just something to be aware of, especially since it does present an obligation on our part to have that sensor in place and active. Any questions about what we've got teed up for the first year of this grant?
I don't have any questions. I do have a comment. I think this is this is pretty cool, being able to add extra security for not only the machines and for those that are voting, but also for our staff. I want to make sure that, keeping our staff, helping them feel comfortable at work is kind of a priority. I think it should be a priority for all.
I agree.
Yeah. Commissioners, any questions or comments?
No questions. Just I guess I would actually just make a quick comment as well. Steve, I appreciate you going out for this grant. I think being able to continue to maintain integrity in our elections is super important, and we've had a long tradition of that here in Mason County, and so these are just additional tools in your and your staff's toolbox to continue that effort. And I do think, having the Albert Sensors sitting on the IT steering committee and representing the commission there, I think we've had a number of good conversations about that. Look forward to having you in the coming weeks to talk a little bit more. But it is a tool that we have that has been, I think, embraced by our IT folks, and TJ and Ben are using that data, I think, to help us in a number of ways. So
Right.
I think this is all positive movement forward.
Very good. Thank you.
Commissioner, you're muted.
Great job, Steve.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Leo, do you have anything for us? I always value the words coming out of your mouth.
Not on this, just on the next item.
Okay.
So with that, can I assume that we have board support for accepting the funds from this grant and moving ahead with the acquisition activity?
Right. So this will have to go on our next agenda. Is there a date that this needs to be turned in by?
Well, again, for this first year, we've got to have the money spent by June 30th. So our time is short. We've got vendors lined up and ready to support. So the timing is of the essence.
I'm supportive of putting it on the agenda.
Yeah, I am as well. I mean, we're accepting the award.
Yeah, we're accepting money.
Yeah, so it's typically hard pressed to say no to money coming in. So.
Right. All right. So we can add this to tomorrow's agenda. That would be great.
Thank you so much. And just as a public service, a couple reminders for the next big elections coming up with our reorganization of the vote center. We do plan to utilize the lobby for our customer service activities. So I want you guys to keep that in mind, not be caught by surprise with that. And also, just as a heads up, probably we'll be signing the clear ballot contract extension in the next 24 to 48 hours. We're waiting for a couple additional pieces of information from clear ballot before we move ahead on that, but wanted you guys to be aware of it. That's all I got.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And then, Leo, you're commenting on anything from the auditors, or are you waiting for the clerks?
We were hoping to get budget approval for Tyler Connect conference. I sent in a briefing agenda. So the cost of registration is included in with our Munis conference, with our Munis contract. Did you see my briefing agenda that I sent in?
I did. So it's a total of 2,400.
So it's 2,400. We wanted to send one of our payroll staff members. It'll benefit the county. I think it's a pretty good idea.
Madam Chair, I absolutely think it's a wonderful thing that this type of education is always good, especially to have more of it when it comes to Munis in-house. I don't know that we need a budget amendment at this time, but we do need to just put note of it so that when we do our budget amendments on our next one, that it's included. I'm sure they can do it within their framework of the monies they have temporarily until our first budget amendment.
Yeah, we just kind of wanted pre-approval.
It's always good for a head. We always need a heads up, right?
Yeah.
Commissioner Shooty?
Yep, all supportive. I think this is a great opportunity.
Great. As do I. You got three out of 3.
Oh, very good. Well, thank you. We appreciate it very much.
Well, thanks to Shannon too. She's a great person. So
Yes.
Yep.
All right. Thank you.
great. Thanks, Leo. All right. Now it looks like we're at the clerk's items. Do we have Charles on here? We do.
Do we have the assessor's office? That's what I have on my
That's
agenda.
what I have too.
I believe the assessor's office was removed. Am I wrong on that one?
Patti pulled her briefing request, I believe.
Yeah, I pulled
Apologies.
it Friday. Sorry about that. Thank you, though.
You're welcome. Thanks, Patty. All right, Charles,
Yes, ma'am.
you're up.
Thank you. As you know, we are currently down. We have 2 new employees starting next Monday. We're asking for temporary assistance, not to exceed 4 months. We're asking, for the salary being between 1857 and 25, depending on qualifications and experience. And we're asking for a new, a skill set in temporary bars for extra help. And we're asking for this not to exceed 4 months until we get our people in here trained. We are receiving assistance. I will be going to Kitsap on Wednesday for additional training. Right now, we don't have enough staff to be able to do union business. We have non-union people. My chief is working up front, which is, as everyone knows, she is not union. I'm asking for some additional help and monies to be able to do this so that we can make sure that we're totally in compliance with the union.
Charles, was this brought before our human resources?
It was brought before the human resources, yes.
Madam Chair, may I? Oh,
Yes.
Go ahead, Mary.
Say that, yes, the extra help is within the contract for not being a union member, not to exceed a certain amount of hours. So we just need to be careful they're worked under that amount of hours. We do have a position description and job posting that was approved for human resources first.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Netherland?
Yeah, so I'm looking at their budget right now and I don't see an actual line for extra help, and I'm looking a little late here, but I'm still not seeing it. I wish Jennifer was on. My question is, do we even need to create the line for extra help? It would come underneath wages and instead of maintenance and operation. With that, if he has so many that are already not there, he's going to already have most likely the funds to cover it within his budget that he already has. So I think the question would become, do we need to create that extra line so he can put that money in, or is he allowed to expend that money out of that budget line without an extra help line? It's still maintenance or it's still wages, and you're allowed to spend wages within wages.
Getting an extra bars line is the direction that we got from Jed. And I
Okay.
believe because we don't have general bars lines for wages, they're assigned to positions, and so that position doesn't exist. So that's extra bars line.
Because I know we do have extra help in other departments. I just didn't see it in his budget when I looked just now. So I'm sure we need to create it, but is that something that we have to do before he can expend it? Because it's still being expended within wages. They have 2 bottom line authorities. They have maintenance and operation authorities on the bottom line. As long as it falls within that, they have the same for wages. They can spend their wages for wages without cross-contaminating with maintenance and operation. They don't even have to ask for the 15,000. So if you have $100,000 in excess wages for positions that are not filled, does he have to come to us to get permission to spend it on extra help? I guess that's my question.
That was the direction we got from Jen, so that's why we're here. I'm assuming that is what we need to do. No, I'm not the finance person, so apologize.
Excuse me, commissioners, if I may, one of the things that we want to do is of course, we want to be in compliance with the union collective bargaining agreement 1504. The problem is that we're getting assistance. We've had Kitsap as well as Thurston reach out to assist us, but for them to just come on over and work with us, that's out of compliance. So I need to make sure that I'm in compliance and I'm doing the right thing. But by the same token, we're over here, we're basically dying because I'm 6 people down. I have approximately 5 people, and we just had a 4-block court request today for our clerks. So therefore, I have 4 of my clerks out in court. Plus, I have nobody running the front. I have a clerk 1 who's doing filing. I have a clerk 1 who's working at the front with the chief deputy clerk. So I'm kind of in a quandary. I mean, these other counties are reaching out to help us, but for me to get in compliance, I have to be able to offer some sort of to bring some of their union people over there, and they're covered under ASME as well.
Mm-hmm.
But the problem is that I mean they want to help me help my department, and they're doing it basically free of charge, which is not appropriate, and that is not within. That's it. I'm not an attorney, so I don't want to say it's illegal, but it's probably borderline unethical. So I just don't want them to come over here and knowing that I'm going to get into trouble because another county's over here and they're non-union people and they're doing union work.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think
Oh,
before we implicate ourselves in anything else this morning, I think this makes a lot of sense. I think this is a good solution. It's a temporary solution.
Hi, Kevin.
Yeah. Yep. No worries. All
Sorry
good.
about that.
But I think this is a good bridge solution to help get things sorted out in your office while you work through your staffing issues.
Right. Mark, did you have a comment also?
I did. Thank you. I was just going to kind of follow up with what Kevin was saying. So we can create a budget line for extra help within Charles's budget. And then I think his salary savings that he has associated with that he'll be realizing since he's got vacancies could be used to go towards that extra help. So he wouldn't need an actual budget extension, just a different line to track those. And then as far as the work that needs to take place in his office, I think we all agree that you need people to do that work. And so it's just a matter of how do we coordinate some of those conversations up front to make sure that we're all on the same page with how we're going to move forward and the resources that we have available to use during this temporary period of time. So I definitely feel confident that we can get through that. Just a matter of good communication.
Correct. All right. So I believe there's 3 of us that are supportive of this. It makes sense, and we need to, help out as much as we can. So it looks like, let's see, how soon would we need this on the agenda?
Well, and would it go on see, that's where the part I'm partially confused on is would it go on the agenda? If we're changing the structure of a budget, it has to, I think, be in the budget amendment to actually change the structure of the budget. And that's what I'm worried about. And that's why I was asking, do we have to? Can he work within the parameters that he has? But I just looked at his budget again and again here. There is no line, unlike other departments that you pick, there is not one single line in there for extra help or anything.
So the only thing that might need to go on the agenda is just the creation of that line. Am I right?
Sorry to butt in here, but I don't think that that's necessarily needs to go before the commission to create a separate line, right? So we're just going to create an additional line of detail that he can charge to extra help. And if he wants to put budget in there, he can move budget out of his salaries and benefits line items that he currently has into the new extra help line item. And it
Yeah.
wouldn't require an additional budget authority, if that makes sense. Now, if as we're progressing through the year, if we find that, oh, now that did impact that, then yes, there is an opportunity for Jen to include that. Jen is actually in gold training this week, I believe. So she is at work. She's just not present with us today. But I can confirm that with Jen as we move forward. And we're early enough in the year that I believe that Clerk Rhodes has the capacity to do that within his current budget. And if we find that that's not the case, then we can work with the board to get it on a future agenda.
I'm just going over past history in my head. I know for a fact that we have done away with line items, and we have also moved them into other ones without going through a budget hearing. So that was done through the commission, through our action. So maybe we can just have something placed on tomorrow's so he can have the ability to go out immediately. Because if you don't have a line he can put it to, as he said, he really can't do it without breaking some rules. We don't want to do that. So is that something that we could simplify and have on there for tomorrow, just to create that line? Except for with Jen gone, that's probably hard, huh?
Well, we can definitely, if you'd like to put something on the agenda in order to create a line item. So this is basically a new expenditure line item within the clerk's budget.
Mm-hmm.
We can do that. Our Commissioner,
Diane.
are you recommending that we do a budget change?
No, that's what I'm saying. I don't think we have to. He has money within his budget. And that's why I'm saying when I'm looking at this and what it said to do, I just wasn't sure that we should do it in that manner. Just creating the budget line allows him the ability to use the money that he has for those unexpended employee positions. Currently, the question is, he needs to probably do it right away. Is that something we can just change right away? But I see Diane on here, so I'm waiting to hear what she's got to say.
Yeah, just to be safe, I tried payroll, and with Jen not available right now, I would recommend tomorrow we place the addition of an extra helpline in the clerk's budget. We wouldn't put any money in it. And then Jen, when it comes time for June, they can look at the budget and see where his budget is with these positions being vacant in the meantime. That probably will fund, but that way they have a bars line, and if payroll wants the commissioner's approval on that, at least the bars line is in there.
Right.
Yes, that's what I was saying. Thank you, Diane. I just didn't do it very well.
Right, that's kind of what I was thinking too. So
May I say something real quick, please? One of the concerns that I have is I have 2 new people starting on Monday. And they're going to be clerk 1, step 1. We still will have 3 additional openings. Will I have, if we don't add any money to the extra help line, will I have any money to be able to bring additional staffing into my office?
well, and I believe that is something that Jen can bring before us. And then Charles, I don't see this as a problem at all. We're definitely gonna make sure that you have the numbers and the help that you need.
Thank you.
Charles, the way it works for the most part is you still have your whole budget and the whole rest of the year, so you're not going to break anything by expending that money. We just need to make sure that you'll have it. But if you're missing that many people, you're going to have that. That's going to be in there. So if not, that's what a budget amendment is for, and we do them on a regular basis. So you'll have time to get it before us, and Jen would be able to set it up.
So can I go ahead and assume at this point that you're approving my extra help?
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow, it will be on the agenda tomorrow.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
My staff is outside my door. They're going to be excited. So thank you.
Thanks, Charles.
Thank you.
Thank you for all your help and support, everybody.
All right, let's move on to community development.
Good morning. I have Marissa with me today.
Morning, commissioners.
Hi,
Morning.
Marissa.
Hi. So we are just following up on the short-term rental regulation research that we were tasked to do. We wanted to do some initial investigation into steps we need to take prior to possible implementation within the county and prior to starting our public process that is necessary. And we also wanted to look at what the effort is going to be on behalf of our department, as well as get an idea of what other departments are going to be involved as well, such as EH and the assessor's department. So we scheduled some info sessions, some demos with some companies that help to assist jurisdictions with regulating short-term rentals. And there's quite a difference between companies. Some only help with like the permitting, the licensing part of short-term rental regulation, while as there's other companies that help with the full-on monitoring of how many short-term rentals there are in the county, whether there are differences in how they list their short-term rental on their short-term rental platforms, as well as helping with enforcement, some enforcement activity. Some have 24/7 hotlines as well. But we just wanted to get kind of an idea of, if these regulations go through, what is it going to look like for our department and the effort our staff is going to have to put into this, whether implementing the regulations will pay for themselves, what kind of support we will have there with possible fees or renewals, any taxes that may be that many of the short-term rentals may not be paying, how that could benefit as well. So we really, one of those companies that we looked at kind of does it all, and we were really impressed with them. I'm not going to name any names, but I'm just going to say that they do kind of all the helping with permitting, licensing, monitoring, and enforcement. And they gave us kind of an insight into how many short-term rentals the county may have. That we thought it was a different number, kind of around 500 to 600, I think, Kell. And they're saying it's more like 1,100. So that's a lot. But so those sessions kind of gave us a good idea of what kind of help we can have if these do go through, if it's something the public and the commissioners want to do. And I think Kell has some additional information.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Marissa. Yeah, I was able to meet with the community development director at Grace Harbor, who they just implemented short-term rental regulations. They had been regulating them in Grace Harbor as a motel or as a bed and breakfast rather. And so they required, so they have been regulating them for quite a few years, but you know, under a different program, they required them to get a conditional use permit and meet certain standards. And so when they transitioned to a short-term rental program, they were able to be more specific to that type of use, which is different than a traditional bed and breakfast. And what they did was they went out first with an RFP to solicit, like what we did informally. Marissa had reached out to a lot of different companies to just so we could kind of understand what was being offered out there, and we didn't even know what questions to ask necessarily. But as I was thinking about it over the weekend, it might be, if the commissioners are interested in actually regulating short-term rentals going forward, is thinking about going out for an RFP first and soliciting a company, knowing that we don't have the staff available to run this program, and that we think just the lodging taxes, capturing all the lodging taxes that should be being paid but likely are not in all circumstances, would pay for the program itself, and then you know, any permit fees after that, and also helping us through the public process, or, you know, the company, there are companies out there that could help us through the public process, as well as drafting an ordinance. So that's one avenue that I would, you know, just have you start thinking about, and I'd be happy to meet with you guys individually, or, you know, Marissa and I meet with you individually to see if you have any concerns or what you're thinking there. And also to be consider if we want to if we are going to regulate short-term rentals, that we place a moratorium now. And so go through the process to place a moratorium just while we're crafting the regulations and getting an ordinance in place. There will be some short-term rentals that if they meet all of the requirements and they have not been overtaxing their septic systems, if they've been paying all of their lodging taxes and all of that sort of thing, then they would be considered legally established, because we haven't regulated them in the past. And so we likely won't require all of the short-term rentals to come to us for a permit. But any short-term rentals that are occurring now that aren't fully meeting all of the state laws would be subject to coming and getting a permit and going under review. So that's why I would recommend thinking about that moratorium in the interim.
Kell, is this something that would go before the planning commission before going?
The moratorium
Well,
or
I
the
guess-
short.
Yeah, I would guess the short term. I know that this is a hot topic at the legislature.
Yes, it would definitely go through. We would use the planning commission for workshops and then for a public hearing for their recommendation to the board. And that's so we would do the planning commission would have the opportunity to do all the hard work of coming up with what are we regulating. We definitely want to look at septic system and water systems, things like that. But then, we can, do we want to regulate number of parking spaces? The whole gamut of things. So the bulk of the work would be done at the planning commission.
Okay. All right, commissioners, any questions?
Has comments on it, but I'll wait for Commissioner Schutte because he's been taking point.
I don't have any questions. I think this is all really positive. Certainly a lot to evaluate. Different vendors offer different services. And so we just want to make sure that, what we're going out for actually meets the planning department's needs and our goals with this, which is, to be clear, not to eliminate this option for folks that want to recreate in Mason County or people that might be interested in hosting a short-term rental. But it's to make sure that we're doing everything in balance. Our housing needs assessment that we completed finalized earlier this year indicated that 25% or more of our housing in the county was used as a secondary home, a vacation home, and a large percentage of those are likely being used as short-term rentals. So there are implications to the environment when you have unregulated short-term rentals, but there's also impacts on our available housing stock as we're trying to figure out how to address affordable housing in the community. So a lot of benefits to this. And so just appreciate you continuing to run this down and certainly interested in what you all come up with and what the planning commission recommends.
And I very much appreciate what you've done. I want to give a compliment out. You guys hit the main points, and I think we definitely are going in the right direction. When you start mentioning septic sizing, occupancy, trespass, harvesting, shoreline beaches, liability insurance, safety requirements, these are all the things that I worry about when it comes to them. I do want to say I'm not supportive of a moratorium on them, though. I found over the years that those have been failures. What happens is it falls into a place where nobody does anything about it because we don't have the staff to do follow-ups and be able to get out there and get them for these issues. So that doesn't make any sense. And it wouldn't be necessary if we require all of them to come in for permit without grandfathering. If we're going to do this, we need to do it. If we're going to do it in order to protect the beaches and the neighbors from being excessively overrun, as which they are. They are literally, as you guys know, and as Kevin brought up in the past, they're overrun by some of these neighbors, when you got one household with 30 people in it right next door to the little residential, it's a residential area for a reason. I do want to say though, make sure whatever we bring out there that we also have the people out there to explain the things we cannot do, because we're not capable of just waiving everybody's rights and doing I Dream of Genie and say you don't have a right to do this anymore. And the citizens, when you get together for the town halls or the community forums, are going to want things done that we just flat can't do. But I like the idea of also going out and bringing a pro, but with us down next to them to explain some of the issues we may have. But good job on this. I'm glad we're moving forward.
Yep, as am I. I think it's great. Look forward to what the information that you guys find out next.
Can we just maybe chat a little bit more about the moratorium? Because I understand that if we're going to pursue regulations, we don't necessarily want people to come in and do things that they might come in with one expectation and realize that the rules have changed. So I get that in progress. But I think to Commissioner Netherland's point, like, what would a moratorium look like, if we had to manage that in the interim between how things are today and potentially adopting regulations? How would that work? Because it is about expectations. And if we're saying that there are no more, who's going to be policing the Airbnb app to see what's available and what isn't, or what's new, or how long it's been on the market? Does that kind of create another regulatory nightmare for us that we're unable to manage?
Well, if there's a short-term rental operation out there that has been in compliance with their septic and water, otherwise in compliance with the septic and water issues, as well as paying their lodging taxes since the state made that a requirement, and had their liability insurance and all of that. Now, I have not had a chance to talk with the Tims in the prosecutor's office, but I am suspecting that if a legally created use, which we currently don't enforce, I don't know that we can require them to get a permit if they were legally established. By placing a moratorium, which usually lasts about 6 months or the time it takes you to draft the ordinance, that it doesn't prevent anyone from, going out and doing a short-term rental in the interim. We're not saying you can't do that, but it would require that a person getting a short-term rental or starting a short-term rental tomorrow or the day after the moratorium is in place, is that when we are done with the ordinance, they'd have to come and get the permit and meet the criteria for operating that short-term rental. So the moratorium, if you don't do a moratorium, you could still have a short-term rental go into progress, and they now know, maybe they're seeing this briefing, they now know they need to make sure they're paying those taxes, those lodging taxes. They need to make sure they have the liability insurance as required by the state and those other things. Then if we don't do the moratorium and they can show us, they can prove that, yes, I meet all this criteria, I'm legally established, then they couldn't be required. Now, to Randy or to Commissioner Netherland's point, that's exactly what I was thinking, is to capture every one of them to get a permit. I don't know whether or not that's possible in the legal land use sense. And that's what I would like a little more time, since I learned a lot of this information just on Friday, meeting with Grace Harbor, and kind of some of the issues they went through. So I would look into that to see, which I think then would help you guys on determining whether or not we should do a moratorium. So on that, did that answer your question, Commissioner Schutte, about the moratorium?
Yeah, I think, that's helpful. I mean, and I'm asking not because I'm opposed to a moratorium. I think if there's a benefit to it from a planning perspective that doesn't create unforeseen issues from an enforcement perspective, then I think there's some merit to it. But I just kind of want to maybe doodle on that a little bit longer and get a sense for it. But I think if there's value to it, then it's probably worth considering.
Okay, and then I have a question about the RFP, since a lot of this is like thinking out loud, is because I do think after we watched, there were several staff people that were engaged in the informal briefings that we had with these different companies, and one clearly stood out, but that doesn't mean that there aren't, others out there. But I think now we have enough information that staff, we could draft an RFP and place that out there. Is that something that the commissioners support? And in advance of going through the public process, because I do think that there's companies out there that can help us along. And that is what Grace Harbor did, that same thing. And that did help them through the public process.
I'm supportive of going out.
Yeah, I am as well. I mean, I think we want to be able to take something back to the public and have some parameters about what we're thinking before we get too far down that path. So I think an RFP to solicit potential partners makes a lot of sense.
Excellent.
Yeah, I'm supportive also, and I'm really happy that you reached out to Grace Harbor. They have quite a few, and they've gone through quite the process. I know, talking to their commissioners too, it's been a process, and it hasn't been an easy one. And so being able to reach out to other SMEs, I think, is a great idea.
So, commissioners, just to share with you why I say what I say about the moratoriums. We do have a history in Mason County where we've dealt with something like this. When it came to medical marijuana many years ago, when we had placed moratoriums and the inability to actually do anything about it, we had them spring up everywhere. We had 9 of them in Belfair, for example, that were just opening up because when you have a moratorium, you almost have nothing. You just tell them don't do it without the structure. You need to have the rules in order to have the structure. Now, I want to make clear that after we had removed the moratoriums, put things into place quickly thereafter, all of them were required to adhere to the new rules that we had created. Now, I don't know that it'd be exactly the same with these, but I would hope it would. Just past history, that's how it worked. And we were able to put the restrictions and require them to bring things up to code, even close down if they didn't meet the new requirements that we had created. One example is we had one that had opened up right next door to a child's daycare, Montessori, and they were smoking pot, and it was going right over the fence with the kids. And I was there, I saw it with my own eyes, and that's where some of the issues came up. They had to be out of there. I think we gave them 6 months to find another location and stuff, and we held them to it. But when we just had the moratorium, it actually created such a huge issue that they were popping up everywhere because we don't have the staff to actually do anything with the moratorium. And what are they going to enforce this except for the fact that you can't do it? Well, good luck on that. You just don't. We already know they have a lot of stuff they do that they're not supposed to do, and we tell them don't do it, and it doesn't make any difference there. So that's why I was saying the point I was saying about the moratorium. But again, great job, Kell. And
Marissa,
Marissa.
she did the bulk of the work. I want to make sure that just because I'm talking right now doesn't mean she did all the research.
Appreciate you guys. So it sounds like an RFP is the next step.
Okay, we'll start getting that drafted. I think that's all we have on unless I'm wrong, but I don't have anything else.
Okay. Commissioners, do you have anything for Kell?
Do not.
Marissa had something.
No, I was just saying there's nothing
Oh.
else from me either.
Okay, awesome. Okay, thanks, everyone.
All right, thank you. All right, let's move on to Mark. Support services.
Thank you, Commissioner Trask. Go ahead with Diane to talk a little about our Sand Hill Park Host.
Morning, commissioners. So we have a couple who we've interviewed for the Sand Hill Park hosts, and we would like to enter into that contract ASAP. We did the background check and that was clear. We would like to get them up there right away. Is the board good with that contract?
Me.
Supportive.
Yep, looks good to me.
Thank you. And then we have another Parks Advisory Board applicant, Kathy Geist, out in Union. So I wanted to know if the board wanted to interview her, or are you comfortable appointing? What do you want to do?
I think Kathy would be a great choice.
Yeah, I'm very familiar with Kathy and her work. I think we've had her on some other boards in the past, so I'm comfortable appointing her.
And we served with her on the transit.
Correct. Yep.
Yes, great. Thank you. I think then we'll have an actual full board for the park, so that's good.
Woohoo.
And also there's 2 proclamations, one for tomorrow's agenda for declaring National Public Health Week, the first week of April, and then on the April 11th agenda, we'd like to put the National Public Safety Telecommunicators Week. Is the board good with those proclamations?
I'm good.
Great, thank you.
Thanks, Diane. So the next item on our agenda is a reoccurring item that comes before the board in the designation of the Associate Development Organization for Mason County. And as you can see from the agenda item description that we put forward, we would actually recognize this as the Mason County Economic Development Council.
Works for me, commissioners.
That's what we've always done. Counties are not, it's not our purview, believe it or not. I always thought it should be, but we, in the state of Washington, we have ports, and that's what the state assigns for that duty. The stuff that comes before the county is supposed to create the ADO and deal with them.
Yeah, I'm supportive as well. And I also see that Jennifer's on here, and maybe Jennifer could just provide us a little bit of an update on recompete as a priority for the EDC. And I think there's some exciting things coming down the pike that we should be aware of.
Absolutely. And thank you for the time. Just really quickly, for the RFI that is getting submitted today on the building of that recompete project. Had a roundtable with Congressman Kilmer. He pulled together all of the representatives within his district to give us some one-on-one time with the EDA to really focus in on those rural areas and what we would need to really build what this program looks like. Have talked with a lot of consultants over the last few months. We still don't have a timeline from EDA yet on when the recompete will launch, but there is work that we're going to start moving forward with to get this application ready for when they do announce it. We've heard anywhere from middle of May to beginning of August. So it's a bit of a range, but it is coming. So wanted you guys to be able to see it. Met with a consultant that has some lobbying focus on it, that has excellent relationships with the EDA specifically, and has been with the process of developing this program from the beginning. So we've been able to do the work to build what a budget would look like for that first initial push for all of us to come together and to really get that application where it needs to be the best that we can have. We're looking probably at about 75,000 with the initial partners being the city, the county, the 2 PUDs, and the Port of Shelton. We will be bringing on additional community partners as that process moves forward and we talk projects, but that's just a heads up to you that I will be, finally, we've got a budget to go from, so I will be submitting budget requests or funding requests to each of those initial 5 partners with the thought of doing an equal split among the 5, make it equal so that everybody's voices are equally weighed at that point. So I don't have that to submit today, but wanted to let you guys know that the work is moving forward. Next steps will be to pull together that initial group, talk projects, pull together the community partners as well, really focus in on what the story around those projects will be. So we're excited. We're excited moving forward. It's looking like it's coming together, and the meeting, at least with the EDA, that I thought was very positive in keeping it focused on rural areas. how this application process can really kind of find the information that they're looking for. They did attach to that RFI some jobs creation numbers and really trying to drill down on what it is that they're wanting to look for from that, and how long that kind of future outlook can be. So we're pulling those numbers for the job creation, because infrastructure does create immediate jobs, but what they're looking for is the long-term impacts. And so being able to tell that story on the infrastructure side to equating it to actual job growth within our county. So that's a quick update. I'm happy to answer any questions if you have it, or give more details if you'd like it.
Commissioners, any questions or comments?
None for me.
Doing a great job. Appreciate you guys. You guys
Thank
are,
you.
are keeping very busy. So
Yeah, we really are. Well, thank you guys. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Jennifer. So the next item is something that we discussed in our last week's briefing, and the materials weren't actually posted online. So first and foremost, I wanted to make sure that the public had the ability to look at what we were talking about last week. So this is the documentation associated with the original request that we received from Thurston Mason, ASO, and through subsequent conversations with Mark Friedman, he actually sat down and talked with a prospective buyer and determined that this was not something that they'd like to move forward with. So this request has actually been taken off the table, but still wanted to provide the documentation that I had put forward and discussed last week so that the public could view it. So if individuals had questions on it, they'd be happy for them to reach out, and I could provide what information I have, but this is not moving forward as a request at this time.
great. Appreciate the heads up.
Absolutely.
Anything else for us?
I don't have anything else.
Commissioners, anything for Mark or the rest of staff?
Not for me.
All right. Well, that was easy. All right, well then let's go ahead and move on to Public Works.
Good morning.
Good morning.
First up is Mike.
Morning, Commissioners. What we'd like to do is replace Resolution 4319 with a new one. What we've done is modified Old Belfair Highway, the milepost. We were doing about 0.4 miles. We'd like to stretch that out to 1.4 miles so we can get more out of our dollars. The reason we're doing this is that looking at the original estimate, it included extending structural plate aluminum culvert, and we've determined we don't have to do that now. Since we've flattened the curves of the road, it won't be necessary. And so we've changed a few other little modifications, and we think we can get a full 1.4 miles out of the job.
Very cool. I'm good with that. Commissioners?
I'm supportive as well.
Yep.
All right, and next up, Commissioners, is a draft letter for your consideration to the Transportation Committee regarding the SR3 Freight Corridor. And looking for any comments, amendments, good to go, questions?
Commissioners, any comments, suggestions, questions?
Let's go.
Yeah, Loretta and I kind of walked through it. Oh, was it Friday? Thursday?
Yeah, Thursday or Friday. It's a blur.
One day last week.
Exactly.
Appreciate you getting this on, put to pen and paper. Or I guess, keyboard to paper.
Right, exactly. Yeah, and it looks like there may be a budget proposal out Wednesday morning. So we'll keep our eyes peeled for that.
Right, I think things are gonna start moving quickly in Olympia, so we'll have to keep an eye on things and
As soon as you can, get me whatever those things are. I have my meeting with Secretary Mercado on Wednesday or next Wednesday, I think.
Okay, great. Forward those over to you, Commissioner.
Loretta, I have a quick question for you in the second paragraph.
Yes, Mark.
So the statement said the governor's proposed transportation budget moves completion of the SR3 Freight Corridor out to the, I thought it was out past the 2023-25 biennium. Should that be a different biennial number there in that sentence?
Yes, it is.
So can we get that corrected? And
Yep.
then just want to make sure from a public perspective that everybody understands we would be revising that.
Thank you, Mark.
Yeah.
good catch.
Yeah, many eyes are helpful. You get wrapped up. So definitely appreciate that. We'll get that corrected and over.
All right, and then do we want to have this on tomorrow's agenda? I would think that we would. Okay.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Oh, no, thank you.
And then we just had a quickie little rundown of commissioners are okay with that on some of the ARPA spending.
Absolutely.
And I'll do a quick screen share and Richard's here, I hope, yes. Because almost all of this ARPA money is with our utilities, our water and sewer and solid waste facility. And Richard and his team have been putting it to great work. Let's see. All right. So overall, commissioners, there have been about $2.7 million allocated between our water and sewer utilities and solid waste. And about 600,000 has been expended to date on infrastructure and 1.5 million to strengthen our local economy. And about $56,000 to date has been spent helping direct help to our utility ratepayers. And Richard's going to share with you some very great information about some of the sewer lift station work that has been accomplished with the ARPA funds. And one of those is what you see here on the screen now is the Belfair lift station or the Sunlit Canyon. And the lovely pumps here to the left are what were pulled out, and the pumps to the right are the brand new pumps. And I think Richard's got a great video to show why we took this work on.
Can you hear me? No? Okay, good. All right. Well, yeah, I'd love to share this video because a picture only tells you so much. All right. Can you see that? This is pump 1 at the lift station 3 at Sunlit Canyon. And this is what I came to when I first came to work here. This is pumping in operation right there. We'll go over to the offline pump and it's leaking fluid too, just sitting there. That's how bad the seals were. And if you want to know how far these things can spray nasty water, we'll back out here a little bit and you can see the staining that occurred everywhere. But you can imagine how much we're gonna save a ton of money in electricity. And yeah, look at just how nasty. And that right there, that was your lift station 3. If I could unshare, I'd be happy. So not only was it really difficult to be inside that pump station for any length of time, as you can imagine. But yeah, there's an after picture with the new pumps installed, all pressure washed and cleaned up and ready to go. There, as you can see also in that after picture down towards the lower left, there's some tools sitting on a concrete basis. That is the pedestal base for the third pump. We did not install that third pump. Electrical components were way more expensive than we estimated. But we do have the third pump. So in case anything needs to happen, maintenance needs to be performed, we're able to take that pump out and replace it with another one and be at full redundancy like it's supposed to be.
Looks like that was something you'd want to wear a hazmat suit in.
And Richard, how deep? So the drop for setting those pumps was how far through, how deep down?
It's about 40 feet down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And a big shout out and thank you to the crew on the assist and obviously the fun cleanup in there. It's the lift station is in great shape.
Definitely. Yeah, that is and that lift station is the bottleneck. That's the one that pumps everything through from Belfair to the treatment plant. So it's imperative that it is in good shape.
Yeah. So a huge thank you, commissioners. I know that all along utilities have been an important focus for you and wanting to make sure that we've got them in great condition and we've got redundancy and we've got backup, and we cannot thank you enough. It's huge. It's very important and much appreciated. And Richard, we also had some work at Lift Station 1.
We do. What we did there is we bought the third pump to have on hand in case anything happens to one of those pumps. We'll be able to change that out and maintain full pumping capacity and redundancy requirements. So yeah, that was money, in my mind, money super well spent.
Yeah. And then the additional funds were for purchasing the grinder pumps, correct?
Yep.
Yeah,
exactly. We purchased all of last year's grinder pumps with ARPA money as well, and much appreciated. That's a big hit to our budget annually. So that was very well, very nice of you for sure.
Okay. And then the other ARPA purchase that we had were for the solid waste yard goats. And
the lower
when I looked for a goat clip, unfortunately, you're gonna have to pretend these sheep are goats. But they look so nice.
I was gonna say, how does a lady who has mules confuse them?
confuse sheep with goats?
Yeah.
I don't know. Sometimes you just roll with what the stock image gives you. But the real thing is down there on the bottom, and those are our workers.
But for sure. I mean, we move a lot of those solid waste cans around a lot more than usual. So it's worth it. I mean, make sure we get our tonnage up. That's what they're doing right there. It's just checking the weight on that and make sure it is full and up to tonnage and ready to go. We don't want to allow it to go out light, that's for sure.
And then, of course, we had 1.5 million allocated for extending the trunk line on the Belfair sewer system, and also $250,000 for designing the Log Yard Road extension on the west side, I guess it'd be west side of SR3. So our existing industrial commercial area. And to date, we have expended right around $1.5 million for the trunk line. And we have yet to get the design out for an RFP, but that's next on our plate. And then I could not resist this beautiful smiling face. and hopefully our customers feel this way. But with the treasurer's good thinking, and I think our budget department, we were able to allocate $90,000, and a huge thanks to Lisa and her team for running this program. And as a result, $56,000 in outstanding utility bills have been paid so far. And commissioners, you may recall there was $90,000 allocated for this program. So that's been a tremendous assistance to our customers and of course to the utility itself. And that's it for a quick rundown.
That was awesome.
Yeah, thank you.
Quick question, Loretta. So, and probably for the commission as well on this. So we have a little bit left over that we haven't expended in assistance for our utility customers. At what point, with kind of the emergency declarations being lifted, state level, federal one expires here in a few days. At what point, do we not hold that back for, ratepayer assistance and, reappropriate that or hold it for float, or, what's the thinking about that internally that we might want to consider?
Mark.
That's exactly what we're doing, Commissioner Schutte, is we're kind of looking through these and getting updates. So Kate has reached out to all the individuals that have received assistance through ARPA to get an update on where they're at. What we can do then is identify where we've underspent these items and bring money back into the commissioner's purview so that you can determine how you'd like to move forward with that. So I do believe that it is time to start to kind of wrap up any rate assistance that was out there and take any of those excess funds and bring them back before the commission to determine how you'd like to move forward with those.
Yeah, I believe that we have until 2024 when we have to have the funds all dedicated, spent by 2026, but the end of 2024. So I think we really do need to start hopping on that also.
Yeah, they use the term obligated, Commissioner Trask, meaning that I think we're entered into a contract and we're obligated to spend them. So the money doesn't have to actually leave until I think 2025 or 6, but it needs to be obligated. So we need to be in a contract that says we are going to spend it.
Right. And then the projects need to be finished by 2026. All right, any other comments, questions for Loretta or team?
Okay.
No, I see you guys out there and you're busy, at least in my district.
Yes, I think Mike said we're actually paving today. Yes, Mike? I don't know if Mike's still on here.
Yes, I am. We're actually paving shoulders on Brockdale, and we are doing county forces work on Old Belfair Highway, and we're doing some brushing also on Old Belfair Highway. So it's spring, we're getting ready.
We're kicking off soon.
It's going to keep you busy.
Always.
True. You guys are always busy. Appreciate you and the entire crew out there.
Thank you.
All right, commissioners, anything for Loretta? No. All right.
All right.
Thank you.
Have a great Monday.
Thanks, you too. All right, commissioners, we've come to the end. Do we have any commissioner discussion?
Not for me.
I'm just that in between our next meetings, I'll be meeting with that Secretary of Transportation. So if you have some things that you need me to express that I may miss, please get them to Mark so I can make sure to to make sure I get them expressed. Hopefully we have what we think we have in the budget, and we're fighting just to keep from getting line items out. And that's a much better position to be in than starting from scratch.
Oh, much better. Yeah, everything's moving along quickly, so we'll have to make sure that we're on top of things. We do have our meeting tomorrow morning.
Commissioner, are you taking any staff with you to the meeting with Secretary?
No, it's literally just me and him having lunch together. That's something I was shooting for, to be able to have a true person-to-person, one-on-one conversation.
Yeah, definitely love to be updated and on that meeting. So.
If I accomplish anything, you'll know. We'll see.
All right, commissioners, tomorrow we have our regular meeting and then the Board of Health meeting afterwards. So enjoy the rest of today, I guess. Do I have a motion?
Move we adjourn.
Second.
All right, we are adjourned.
Thank you, everybody.